Hi, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, good day. How are you? Today we are going to solve another question of additional maths. Okay, in this video we are going to answer the second question that we promised to solve in last video. The question is how to know which is the region that we need to highlight to find the range. And of course in this case the range is a range for the quadratic inequality that we need to solve. Okay, before we start to solve the quadratic inequality, let's talk about basic first. Suppose we have an x-axis and a y-axis, and there is a point x equals to 2. When we draw a line passes through this point, this line will be x equals to 2. And this line will divide the whole region into two separate regions, for which the one at the left, this region is called x smaller than 2, and this region is called x greater than 2. And if there are 2 points for which is negative 2 and positive 4, and we draw 2 lines which is x equals to negative 2 and x equals to 4, then these 2 lines will actually divide the whole regions into 3 zones. The first zone is at the left side of negative 2 called zone 1, and second zone is a zone squeezed between negative 2 and 4, and the third zone is the one that greater than 4. So zone 1 is labeled as x smaller than negative 2, zone 2 is labeled as x between negative 2 and 4, and zone 3 is labeled as x greater than 4. And for all the points inside this zone, all its x is smaller than negative 2. And any point that we get in this zone 2 is x will fall between negative 2 and 4. And of course, any point on this zone, the x will be greater than 4. Okay, let's have a look at example 1. Suppose we have a quadratic inequality which is x squared minus x minus 2 greater than 0. As usual, we will try to factorize the quadratic expression to get x minus 2 times x plus 2 plus 1 greater than 0. So first of all, let's try to look for roots. In order to look for roots, take x minus 2 equals to 0, where x will be equals to 2, and x plus 1 equals to 0, x equals to negative 1. So these are the 2 roots of the quadratic function. So let's put the roots on the x-axis, negative 1 and 2. And as we have learned in basic, these 2 lines will divide the whole regions into 3 zones. So the left-hand side is where x is smaller than negative 1, and the second zone or zone 2 is a region where x is between negative 1 and 2, and the third zone is where x greater than 2. So which one is our solution? So we have to assume that x minus 2 and x plus 1 is y. So in this case we are looking for y greater than 0. Since a is positive, so it is a happiness with a U shape. So let's put in the root negative 1 and 2 again, and this is a y-axis. So above the x-axis is where y greater than 0, below the x-axis is y smaller than 0. So we are looking for y greater than 0, and we notice that these are the points for which is y is greater than 0. And if try to imagine in terms of zone, we notice that all these points fall in the first zone and the third zone. So The solution will be zone 1 where x is smaller than -1, or zone 3 where x is greater than 2. As a result, the solution for this quadratic inequality is x smaller than -1 or x greater than 2. Okay, as a second example, we choose another quadratic inequality, which is x squared minus 2x minus 15 smaller than 0. As usual, we factorize the quadratic expression, become x minus 5 times x plus 3 smaller than 0. In order to look for roots, set x minus 5 equals to 0 and x plus 3 equals to 0. So the roots are -3 and 5. So let's try to put these two roots on the x-axis, and in this case a is positive, so its happiness is a U-shape, right? So as you can see from here, let's try to recall that in fact we can divide the whole regions into 3 zones, and in this case, we are looking for y smaller than 0. So where is y smaller than 0? Y smaller than 0 is here. So all these points are the one for which is y is smaller than 0. So this is the zone, which is a zone 2, for which x is greater than -2 and smaller than 5. So the solution is x greater than -3 but smaller than 5. Example 3, where I choose the one with a negative. So -x squared minus 3x plus 28 smaller than 0. So how to handle negative? So as we know, negative is our enemy number 1. As a result, wherever possible, we try to avoid it. So how to avoid negative in this case? That's quite simple. Shift everything from the left hand side to the right hand side, then the negative will disappear. So here you are, shift the -x squared to the right side, -3x to the right side, 28 to the right side, then it's greater than 0 like this. So rewrite the quadratic expression and write it as greater than 0. So greater than 0. So how to do greater than 0 here is very easy. As you can observe from here, this is a big mouth. Imagine that this is a mouth. Okay, the big mouth is facing the quadratic expression. So even though I write the quadratic expression at the left hand side, notice here, try to observe here, the big mouth is still facing the quadratic expression, where the sharp end is facing 0. So no matter how we write, the sharp end will still facing the 0. So by using this way, we have successfully converted negative into positive. So what is the advantage of negative into positive? I'm very certain that you agree with me. With the negative here, this quadratic expression is more difficult to be factorized compared to positive. And when it is positive, it's easier to be factorized. So let's try to factorize it. And as what we have done in the previous two examples, we will first try to look for the roots. Okay, so the roots are -7 and 4. And as usual, you try to put these two roots on the x-axis, and since now it is positive, a is positive, so it is a U shape. And I hope you can imagine the zone now already. So in order for it to be positive, we would like to choose this zone 1 and zone 3. All these points are the one with y positive, is above x-axis. So the final answer is x smaller than -7 or x greater than 4. Take notes here, don't write n. Instead, it is all. Okay, I hope you are clear about these 3 examples. If you are not clear, replay the video. The video won't scold you. Okay, see you. Bye-bye.
Huan Academy. You ask, we solve.